Hi and welcome. In the next couple of minutes, you will learn how to copy and highlight texts in your TextMesh Pro text boxes so you can easily paste the contents elsewhere, be it outside of the game or into input fields. Let's start with the basics. I have a simple text box with a headline. I want to be able to click a button to copy it to my system's clipboard. Let's say that's a static label and was already set in the inspector. And from here on, for each part of the tutorial, make sure your text box size is big enough to fit your text. If your text is overflowing and you click on it, you won't get the desired results. Create a new script and call it something like copy and highlight by button and attach it to the text field. Reference it on the button's on-click behavior. This script will always be put on the text box, so we will add a required component of type TMP text at the top. The script gets a reference to the text box, which we will set in awake, and a short public method called copy to clipboard. Its contents is a single line of text. This is cross-platform and will copy the contents of the text field into the system's clipboard. If your text contains rich text tags, like B or link tags, those will get copied as well. Most likely, we don't want this to happen. We will first grab the desired text and remove all the text before handing it off to the clipboard. To remove, we will use a very short regular expression like this. It looks for anything in angled brackets and removes that as well as the brackets themselves. So, let's test. This time, I have snuck a color tag into the headline. If we now utilize our button to copy it, the tag won't show up in the copy. To make it more visible that the text has been highlighted to copy, we will utilize the mark tag built right into TextMesh Pro. Go back to the code and this time add a string original text at the top. Copy the text box's text into it in awake. There is a high chance that this text will have to be changed at runtime, so add a public void setToNewText method that changes the field's text and updates the original text. This time, when clicking the button, the text box's original text will be stored in the reference, tags and all. Then we will wrap the text in the mark tag and set the text box's text to this new version. Let's hardcode the highlight color in for a moment. Since our script is attached to the text box, we can add an interface called iPointerClickHandler, which comes with a corresponding method. It checks if a click has been performed on an element its script is attached to. We want our highlight to go away once we click on the text box, which we can accomplish like this. Now our text will be highlighted when the button gets pressed, and due to our regex getting rid of the tags, we won't have to worry about those showing up either. Also, we can use it to make our button superfluous. Add a bool _highlighted at the top, and in onPointerClick, check its state. If it is highlighted, restore the initial text field contents, otherwise copy it to the clipboard. Let's tackle changing the color highlight next. We add a color and corresponding string to our script. Also, we'll now introduce two strings for the starting and end tag to keep our code simpler. In our method, use the color utility like this to get the hex code of our color. Notice that this uses the RGBA method, not RGB, since we urgently need the alpha here. Since the mark tag overlays text, you'll need a halfway transparent color to still be able to read your text. Replace the mark tags with the string values and test. Once you're done testing, I recommend putting the color utility and updated start tag string lines of code into our awake method, since those values will probably not change every time the copy button gets called. If you have learned something new or enjoyed the tutorial up to here, please give it a thumbs up. If you're interested in more UI tutorials, and subscribe. The scripts for this tutorial are in my Github, and you're welcome to join the Discord if you're looking for a small and active community. Next, let's copy text directly from the text box without copying all of its contents at once. There are multiple ways, so let's have a look at two in increasing difficulty. Highlight and copy predefined words and selecting text by dragging the mouse over it. Create a new script for the first version called highlight copy links and copy over everything but the copy method and contents of onPointerClick. We will need a reference to our canvas, and in case your canvas is not set to screen space, the camera setup for the canvas. First, predefined words. This can be very useful if you have some kind of game with a glossary or research mechanic. We will use the link tag for it, and remember, link tags aren't just for URL kind of links, but to link systems up with each other. I have a playlist on this super powerful feature. In this text, I want the player to be able to look up the highlighted words. To be able to do so, they got both wrapped in a link tag. It consists of the tag link, an ID, and corresponding text. The ID can be any kind of string, but has to be one of a kind. Add an int underscore last checked linked at the top of the script. It should default to -1. We will reuse onPointerClick. Grab the position of the mouse cursor like this, which works in Alt N in new input system. Check for the nearest link the player has clicked on by using text utilities find nearest link with the textbox, canvas, and camera as parameters. This will return an int value, which will be -1 in case no link has been found. In that case, we can end our search. Next up is a check. If our text has already been highlighted and the last checked link is not the same as the current link, we reset the contents of the text box back to the original text, call copy to clipboard with the current link as its parameter, and set our last checked link to the current one. If it is highlighted but the same link, we reset it to the original text and toggle highlighted off. And lastly, we just call copy to clipboard, update the last checked link, and toggle highlighted to true. Copy to clipboard will now need an int parameter to work correctly. First, we get the infos about the link we clicked on and store its ID. By using getLinkText, we can already copy the text to our clipboard. From here, we need to do some math to accurately highlight the words the link tag tagged without highlighting the tag itself. This was a mouthful. The process works like this. We get the starting index of the link text, and we'll use that index to mark everything up to the end of the link tag. The issue is that if we have a linked word and click on it, we get an index that disregards the length of the link tag. If we want to wrap the link text by using this one, we will instead wrap from the string's position on. It's a bit of a mess, so let's tackle it. We need the start index of the link tag itself, which we can call like this. Then we need to know how long our tag is. With this, we can now correctly calculate the real position of our first linked index character. The last character we want to highlight will thus be calculated by adding the length of the linked text to the first character index. We need to replace parts of our text box contents now. Create a string builder for this with a copy of the text field's text. We will insert the initial mark tag at the position of the first character index and the closing tag at its end if our marked text length is bigger or equal to the first character index, and our marked text length is bigger or equal to the last character index plus the length of the marked tag. Lastly, we set our text field to this new string. And now we can accurately highlight our linked words. If you want to learn more about the link tag, like getting infos on click, or displaying tooltips on hover, or sending events based on text box contents, or just a plain old open link from the URL, I have a playlist for you. It's a super mighty tool built right into the system. Okay, this done, we'll tackle the last implementations. Selecting, highlighting, and copying text freeform. There is one issue you might already anticipate after the previous workflow. The further we drag across our text, if we have any rich text tags at all, the length of those will lead to super confusing offsets between where we think we are and where we actually are. Also, it will lead to some of those tags becoming partly visible, as the index we are currently at could be placed in the middle of a tag, writing the end of a mark into it. This is rather infuriating, and after having created a few dozen tutorials on the awesomeness of tags, I will have to say this is an instance in which they need to go, at least temporarily. Any kind of formatting you use to style the text box itself will work, so don't worry. It's really just the tags. Again, start with a new script, this time called copy highlight freeform. Copy over the references at the top, awake, set new text, copy to clipboard. We will not use onPointerClick here, but instead iPointerDown handler, iPointerMove handler, iPointerUp handler with their respective methods, since we want to click, move, and release to mark our text. If you are sure you won't be using any rich text tags in the associated text box, you can keep working with original text. The workflow will be the absolute same apart from one single change at the end, which I will point out. If you think there might be tags in your box, though, use original tags without tags instead. In Awake, we will again use regex to grab a version of our text box's contents and strip out the tags. We will set the text box's text back to the original one, minus the tags and onPointerDown, grab the mouse position, and set the starting point of our selection by finding the nearest character. Then we will set the mouse down to true. Since our text box text will now not contain any tags anymore, this will work without any further math required. onPointerMove will not do anything as long as mouse down is not set to true. Since we are actively moving, we need to get the current mouse position and intersecting characters. Again, if our intersecting characters return to -1, we exit. Also, we need to make sure our current position is behind the start position, or it will lead to strange results. We get the length of our selection by taking our current position, remove the starting position, and add 2. Yeah, this is a magic number I got through trial and error. 1 might work, but with 2, selecting characters on the right edge of the text box is much more reliable. We set our selected text to the original text, but make sure to only get all the characters between the starting position and the selected length. This covers the selecting part, onwards to marking. We create, once again, a string builder. We insert the starting mark tag at the start position like this. Then we need to check if the starting position plus length of selection plus length of mark tag is short enough to fit in the mark text. In that case, we add the closing mark. Otherwise, we will add the mark at the end of the text box. We finish this method by setting the text field to the mark text. In onPointerUp, we again first check if mouse down is toggled. To make sure it's only called once, we set it to false right after. We check if our selected text has a leading or ending empty space, in which case we trim those off. And finally, we can copy our selection to our clipboard. And in case you know your text contains tags, which should show up again after the selection is done, set the text field's text back to the original. The word text has lost all meaning. Sorry. This way, your text box will look as you styled it. Switch to tagless mode during selection progress, and get back to looking good right after. Only caveat is that you won't be able to see your selection anymore in this case. So again, I recommend if there's a text box in your game you want your players to copy from, style that with the settings on the component and refrain from using any text in that specific box to make life much easier. In that case, you can skip this last set. Hope you enjoyed the tutorial and have a great week!